All right, well, this is Roger Roots of Lysander Spooner University. We are at the Red Pill Expo 2018, Spokane, Washington, and I'm here with a great scholar, Edward Goodliffe. He is from Alberta, Canada, but he has roots in Great Britain. And we also with the always resourceful Kelly Stewart, who is, despite her resourcefulness, failing utterly, it seems, to properly affix a device to a tripod. But in any case, Mr. Goodliffe, why don't you just introduce yourself and how you came to be a scholar of the problems that face Western civilization?
Well, I should start by saying never in my life have I been accused of being a scholar. But if I stand accused, I'm not sure that I'm really guilty of that. But the fact is that when it comes to the subject of vaccinations, it's been many years that I've been looking at the subject, and at first, what first piqued my interest was the fact that it didn't seem to be working. And so I went out and I bought a book called The Poisoned Needle by Eleanor McBean. I think it came out in about 1957, but I didn't read that till probably the 80s. And that book was such an eye-opener when you could see the tricks that had been used to make it look like vaccinations made a difference. I mean, little things like the smallpox vaccine and the polio vaccine. It showed a graph where you could see the massive infection rate was going down at about a 45-degree angle. And they attributed this to the vaccination program. But what she showed in her book was the graph before the official graph started of the 50 years before the introduction of these vaccines.
Let me stop you there. So what's the explanation for why these diseases were being cured without the vaccination programs?
Well, I think it's fairly obvious, because I mean, if you go back to the time, say, take London and big cities like that, they didn't have any main drainage, and they would be defecating into buckets, and the washing up water and everything else would go in those buckets, and they would open the windows and shout slops and throw out all the sewage into the street, which everyone would then be walking through. Generally speaking, the sanitation was terrible. And so really, it's not what you call a very hygienic atmosphere to live in. Not to mention the fact that everyone was burning coal, and the atmosphere was absolutely full up with smog. You've got all the animals living there, the horses and carts pulling things through the street. Where is all their effluent going? It's going into the street. Everything's filthy. Nobody was washing their hands. All the food was filthy. So the conditions, I don't think you could call the conditions very sanitary, and with the introduction of indoor plumbing and the like, and also you've got to consider the food. As the food became more plentiful during the Industrial Revolution, there was more wealth, so people could afford to eat better. So if you eat better and you're living in a cleaner environment, and you've actually got clean water rather than effluent, polluted water, your chances of living have got to be much greater. And so I would put it down to the improved sanitation is why the rates of death from those diseases were down. But let me finish.
Okay.
That 45-degree angle that the graph was coming down at, if you looked at the 50 years before they introduced the vaccinations, it was coming down at actually a steeper angle. And so therefore, if anything, the vaccinations slowed down the improvement rate. Now that's what I learned from that book.
Amazing.